Well, first of all, I want to apologize for my voice. I'm in the middle of a cold, so I'll try to get through this report so that you're able to understand what I'm trying to convey. Now, the last report that I brought to you was regarding the backlash of President Trump recognizing Jerusalem as Israel's capital. And yes, there was a bit of, what should I say, a riot in various cities and towns around the world, but it wasn't as bad as many thought it might be. So the backlash so far has been mild, yet many are saying that the Trump administration or the U.S. administration has disqualified themselves, but I don't think anybody really believes that. And certainly this move has divided the world by what I believe will end up being two different camps. One camp being in the United States side, and the other side being on Russia's side. And certainly Russia, Iran, and Turkey have come out strong against it. And Turkey lately has tried to mobilize the moderate or greater Arab world, I believe it's like 49 countries, to recognize Palestine as Jerusalem, or should I say, to recognize Jerusalem as Palestine's capital. And I think eventually in the final plans, that's exactly what will happen. Palestine will get a portion of Jerusalem. But certainly this outcry, or this call for an outcry between Hezbollah and Hamas and Turkey and others simply did not materialize as they thought it might. The world is still keenly focused on what the United States is going to bring to the table come January, February of 2018. And make no mistake, all the reports that I have received indicate that this secret plan or ultimate plan will come to pass in the next few months. And when it does, it will be supported by the modern Arab world. Saudi Arabia is still telling the Palestinian leadership that they need to get on board with it, and that it is still a very serious and practical peace plan. And many are now saying that this recognition of Jerusalem kind of took away at least one major obstacle to the coming peace process. And I shouldn't even call it a peace process anymore, because when I think of a peace process, I think of a step-by-step ladder in which they will go from one situation to the next, until it's all taken care of. But from what I'm gathering, the information that I'm getting is that it's going to be a final status agreement. Take it or leave it. And frankly, I don't think the Palestinians have any choice. They have been asked by the Trump administration questions of what their minimal requirements are for peace. Those in charge of putting this process together know exactly what the minimums are. So when they do finally present this, no one is going to be able to say, well, you know what, I didn't agree to that. Because everybody so far has said, well, these are our minimums that we want. So certainly there's going to be, in some parts of the peace process, where the Trump administration is going to be coming in at the minimum of what the parties have told them. So they're not going to be able to come back and say, you know what, I didn't agree to that. Yes, you did. You said that would be your minimum benchmark if, in fact, we had to go there. Now let me address one thing regarding what Mr. Trump did last Wednesday in recognizing Jerusalem as Israel's capital city. Well, let me tell you this. Many have said that, well, you know what, we should have, the United States they're talking about, should have received something in return from the Israeli government in doing what they did. Well, I can bet your life that he will get something in return, and that will be in the peace process. In fact, when in fact he needs to come to the Israeli government as they are ironing out this peace plan, I guarantee you they're going to use that as saying, you know what, we gave you Jerusalem as your capital. You need to bend on this. So just because you can't see it out in focus right now doesn't mean that the United States did not get, or should I say the Trump administration did not get something for their trouble. I'm quite certain they're going to have to bend a little bit when Mr. Trump asked for them to bend. Now here's an article by the Times of Israel that's entitled, Trump's Jerusalem Steps Will Help the Peace Process, some experts say. It says, 1 week after Trump announced the decision, any peace prospects do appear to have dimmed. Protests did take place in Jerusalem and Palestinian areas, though they were far milder than anticipated. The Palestinian negotiator Saeb Erekat called on his people to now pursue equal rights within Israel rather than a state of their own, while Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas said that the U.S. no longer has a role to play in brokering talks. Now, certainly none of that is true, and none of that's going to take place. That's just a bunch of talk to get the international world to try to be on their side. But that's simply not interest. That's simply not the interest of the modern Arab world. Their interest is eliminating Iran and Hezbollah from their sphere of the world. And going on with the article, it says, but that does not bother analysts who feel the United States should present itself as a resolute supporter of Israel rather than even-handed mediator. Such a stance, some wrote, rightly puts the onus on Palestinians to adjust their demands and show their willingness to reach a deal. Now, here's where I think the deal really plays a part in this Jerusalem capital recognition. It says, but some analysts who were inclined toward the decision also warned that granting a long-standing Israeli demand could put Israel in Trump's debt if he ever demands concessions. Because Trump is viewed as a very pro-Israel by the Israeli public, it will be more difficult for Netanyahu to say no to any request from the president for compromises. It was easy for Bibi to say no to Obama since there was no domestic political price. Not so with Trump. So even though this sounded like the right thing to do for Mr. Trump, it may very well be more of a strategic move to make sure that when it finally comes down to this peace process being finalized, he is unable to stand in the way. Now here's some interesting information from the Israel National News with an interview on France 24 with Saudi Arabia Foreign Minister Jubeir. It says Jubeir, in an interview with France 24, also denied the Sunni Muslim kingdom had any relations with Israel, despite sharing Israel's concern about the regional influence of Iran. He repeated that Riyadh had a roadmap to establish full diplomatic relations with Israel should there be a peace agreement with the Palestinians. There have been several recent reports which hinted that Saudi Arabia and Israel are getting closer. One report claimed the Saudi government is weighing the possible normalization of relations with Israel ahead of a planned Middle East peace program by the Trump administration, which aims to not only secure a final status agreement between Israel and the Palestinian Authority, but lead to recognition of the Jewish state by the larger Arab world. And frankly, I believe that's really where it's heading. Another report implies that Saudi King Salman plans to step down and announce his son as his successor, and that once the crown prince becomes king, he would enlist the help of the Israeli military to crush Hezbollah, Iran's proxy in Lebanon. Israel today views Saudi leadership in the region positively. Katz said, no other Arab country exists with the same level of power and understanding. He asserted that Saudi Arabia has the ability to lead processes and make decisions for the region as well as for the Palestinians, and noted that he would be ready to participate in negotiations with the Palestinian Authority if Saudi Arabia played a determining role in negotiations. So that's probably how it's going to play out right there. Once Mr. Trump does finally bring about his final status agreement for the Palestinians and the Israelis, I believe the Saudis have got the Palestinians under control, and with this recognition of Jerusalem as Israel's capital, I think that Mr. Trump will use that to keep the Israelis under control. And between the two of them, they will bring peace, I do believe. So does that mean the rapture is at hand? It certainly does. Does that mean it's going to be in a given amount of time? Well, nobody knows that for sure because the rapture date is unknown. But the Bible does say in Hebrews 10:25 that we should gather more together as we see the day coming. Well, now what day is that? Well, that is the rapture of the church. So we as Christians should be able to see that day coming. And certainly if what is transpiring right now is any indication, that day may not be too far away. And certainly you should be ready, and so should those you love be ready. And due to my voice giving out, I'm going to make this short. If you don't know the Lord, you need to know him today. Don't put it off. And you Christians, you need to get a copy of my Tribulation Period Survival Guide, and you need to get it in the hands of every lost friend and loved one. Go down to the description section in this video. It'll tell you how to get a copy. Click on the link and go to that section and get a copy for your lost friends and loved ones. Well, this is Terry Malone with the Calvary Prophecy Report.